So right on the heels of Tucker Carlson being parting ways with Fox News, Don Lemon has parted ways with CNN, and this one's a little bit different. They'd had actually already been having some issues with him, and I think before this one, which is a little bit more questionable because he was pushing back on a Republican presidential candidate who has no hope against Trump and DeSantis and potentially Tucker Carlson at this point. But he was pushing forward. And, I hate this about Republicans too. They say it's a historical fact. It's a historical fact. Is it? It's a historical fact. You're going to disregard everything else that came out of the civil rights movement, everything else that had to be fought for. I mean, this all predates me. It predates you, right? But he wanted to have an argument that the NRA was formed to help the recently freed slaves defend themselves against the KKK. And he called them the Democrat slave owners, right? Not the Confederate extremists that were doing this. They just love throwing out that the Democratic Party was more dominant in the South during that time frame. But here's the thing. Gun power is not the only way. It took over 100 years to come even close, and they're still not close. Like, that's a ridiculous argument. Plus, the man is not black, so I don't know that he really has a position to argue against Don. But the thing is, this is on the heels of Don Lemon pretty recently making a very inappropriate comment on the morning show. I don't even know why they moved him to the morning show. So it seems like he's been doing some things that they don't like. But very recently he was trending for saying that women over 30 are past their prime. And this was in the context of leadership, if I remember correctly, which would assume that you can be ageist against a woman. No, maybe it was 40. I think it's women over 40 are past their prime. But he's basically saying that women ripen faster, right? Men, they can go all the way into, their 80s, hell, their 90s. Rupert Murdoch is in his 90s. They can still lead companies. They can still lead the country. They can still run a vigorous campaign for presidency. But not women. Oh, no, no, no. We are past our prime once we reach 40. So he was already getting shit for that. And I think they actually made him take a temporary leave while they tried to clear that one up. So they were already having a struggling relationship with Don. But I don't... This is a situation, I think, where you already have a tenuous relationship with your boss. And so they're looking for anything. And they felt like this is what they could ride with.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
In what is now the second biggest firing in media today, Don Lemon has been fired by CNN, following, of course, Fox News firing Tucker Carlson. So this one is a little, maybe even more interesting because of the last straw that may have led to his firing, according to reports. And it's an act of journalism.
Last straw, though. You see, that's the thing, because he had his own show in the evening. Then they moved him to the morning show. That did not seem to be a promotion. It seemed to be a demotion. Then he said something inappropriate just recently that he was trending for. I don't know how many other things he may have done. But this is not a great last straw. But it does show that he was starting to lose his composure a bit when speaking with hostile guests. But also, this is a bad look for CNN, because why do you keep giving them a platform with no pushback?
That CNN apparently felt was a little too on the nose, maybe. I don't know, but I'm going to show you what that is. But let's go through just how wildly different these statements are from CNN compared to Don Lemon. So CNN announces CNN and Don have parted ways. Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, and we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. We wish him well and will be cheering him on in his future endeavors. Contrast this with Don Lemon saying, I was informed this morning by my agent, and by the way, he did the show this morning, so he was fired after the show. I was informed by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I'm stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network. It is clear that there are some larger issues at play. With that said, I want to thank my colleagues and the many teams I have worked with for an incredible run. They are the most talented journalists in the business, and I wish them all the best. All right.
Well, I don't know. It's possible. I don't know how this works with on-air talent like that, because they have to sign big contracts. But I imagine there's still like SAG-AFTRA or some sort of unionized talent. So it's possible that upper management might not be able to sit in a room and terminate him without labor representation in the room. Without labor representation in the room. So maybe there is some sort of process of just cutting the contract through the agent if the agent is the person who supplied the... I don't know how this goes. But I don't know that it was necessarily the best thing to put a statement out like that. I don't know if Tucker put out a statement. I'm going to have to take a look at that too. But I'm going to play a bit more of this, and then I'm going to find the other clip where he screwed up pretty recently.
So what happened here? There has, of course, been at least a couple of times that Don Lemon has made headlines on his new morning show. One of them here, uproar hits as hits CNN as Don Lemon is rebuked for comments about women. So you may or may not remember this, but this was about Nikki Haley and her run for president as a Republican. And here are the comments that he made about that.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. So I got another.
I'm not saying I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
You need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home.
Okay, so ladies, if you want to run for president, you only get 5 years. Because you're only eligible when you're 35. And according to Don Lemon, once you reach 40, you're past your prime. That was some of the dumbest ass shit. He did apologize for it on Twitter, though.
When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime. And they need to be in their prime when they serve. Because she wouldn't be in her prime according to Google or whatever it is.
All right, so regardless of your feelings about these comments here, there was disagreement on air at the time, which I think there's nothing wrong with these sorts of discussions as long as there is, pushback on air about it, and clearly there was. And then Don Lemon went on to apologize about it, and CNN's chairman, Chris Licht, opened his daily 9 a.m. editorial at the time by saying the remarks by Lemon were widely viewed as sexist and insensitive and had left him disappointed. So they had crossed that bridge, or they had dealt with the situation. Don Lemon apologized. They moved on. But I guess...
Yeah, but it was recent enough, David. It was recent enough that if they were having... obviously, they had demoted him to the morning show. They took him off to prime time. So there had to have been some other things going on. And this was a recent enough incident that he might have gotten, a written warning. They might have actually started, disciplining him. And saying, you're on a performance review now for the next 30 days or something like that. That's how it happens in corporate America, at least. I can't imagine that they wouldn't want to have similar disciplinary procedures in place, even at that level, because you want to document that you had a clear reason why you terminated the person so that they don't try and sue you later for it.
They weren't done. So in recent weeks, CNN bookers had discovered that some guests did not want to appear on air with Mr. Lemon. And research on the morning show reviewed by CNN executives found that his popularity with audiences had fallen, one of the people said. So this, I tend to think this is maybe if this is true, one of the biggest reasons why they would kick him off.
Yeah.
They need guests. This is why media is often very kind to all of their guests, regardless of who they are. Very rarely is there some real pushback on guests because they want to be able to invite them back on. They want access. They care so much about access. So they're never going to be, they're very rarely going to commit real acts of journalism with guests because they don't want to scare people away. But this is why I would think this is one of the larger reasons why he'd be pushed out. But also
Okay, Mike, it's all you now.
tensions emerged between Lemon and one of his co-anchors, Miss Collins. In December, CNN This Morning crew members were rattled after a backstage incident where Lemon accused Collins of interrupting him too often.
Oh.
So behind the scenes, there's some, I guess, fighting.
Yeah, and if you look at that clip too with Vivek, he was getting communicated with through his earpiece. Don Lemon was, and he was fiddling with it, and I think he even said something like "stop" or he said something in the middle of it where he was frustrated that he was getting interrupted, and then his co-host Poppy, she was like in silence, and she was getting some sort of text messages during the interview. So it was pretty wild. Like whoever was in the background was not happy with the way that went down.
Or a little bit of disagreement between how they conduct the show. But this one, I'm surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm kind of surprised that this made it. That this is maybe the last straw. So last Wednesday, Lemon made headlines again after a highly contentious on-air exchange with Vivek Ramaswamy, a Republican presidential candidate. Let me show you this video. So yes, it is contentious, but Lemon is committing a rare act of journalism here, and apparently this is one of the reasons why they fired him.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
Black
part
people,
of what secured
hang on,
that
please.
freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to
And you know how
happen
they
after
got
the
it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don, the
NRA did not play a big role in
absolutely, they
that.
trained
That
black Americans
is
how
a
to use
lie.
firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The
It's
NRA
actually-
did not play a big role in
This
that.
is just historical fact.
It's
but
not
Don,
a historical fact.
the part that I
Just
find
because you say it's historical
the
fact.
part that
it's
I
not
find
historical
insulting
fact.
is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have
The
gone
fact
through
that I
civil
find
rights
insulting
revolution in
is
this
that
country.
you are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I
know
have
the
a different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate
I'm not saying you
without
shouldn't
me
express your
regarding
views,
you as a
but I think
black
it's
man,
insulting that
but
you're
me
sitting
regarding you
here-
as a fellow citizen.
That you're
That's what I
sitting
think we
here,
should see.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
Whatever ethnicity I am,
about
I'll
what
tell
it's
you-
like to be black in
Whatever
America.
ethnicity
I'm
I am, I'll tell
sorry.
you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white, doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the
but I think
content
you should-
of the
if you're gonna
ideas.
do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a
I
fair
think-
way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way. Okay? We appreciate you coming on.
With
Thank
due
you for that.
respect, Don, I look forward to
Thank you very
continuing
much.
that
I appreciate
conversation.
it. We'll
Thank
continue
you.
the conversation.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Pop.
We'll talk about China.
Yes, let's talk
next
about China.
time you come back.
Oh, thank you. Much to say on declaring independence from China.
Okay,
Something you
can
can
we
add
move on now, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right, so
Awkward.
I thought it was important to show the whole clip, including the end here. I have to imagine the producers were yelling in his ear, which is why at the beginning of this conversation, he was talking about how he can't hear the conversation in front of him because of what's happening in his ear. And then the look here, like they were not happy. But I find this so bizarre because this was great television. And Don Lemon is pushing back in an honest way. They're having a real debate. The most charitable take here about why producers would have an issue with this is that this is maybe too heated for morning television. And that's another point that's made in the New York Times piece, is that Don Lemon sort of brought the same style he brought to prime time. I guess these somewhat contentious interviews occasionally. He brought that to the morning show, and I guess it was not a good fit when people are making breakfast, drinking their morning coffee. I think it's fine if you turn on a news show. What do you expect? Like, if you want sunshine and rainbows, then I don't know, watch Teletubbies. So, but this is, I guess, one of the issues they had is that occasionally he showed rare acts of journalism. It's too much for CNN and their new direction of trying to appeal to the right, which I think ultimately is maybe the biggest issue here for CNN, is that this may offend some people on the right wing. And you can't do that. You couldn't do that before in mainstream press. They're always so concerned about how the right may feel. Not necessarily, the MAGA base, but still more conservative viewers. And with CNN's new direction, they're trying to appeal to those viewers even more. And so far, as from what I've read and heard, it has not been working out.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't think Don Lemon is, with whatever issues he may have in terms of things that's been said on air before, I don't think he's the problem with CNN. But I guess we're going to see who they replace him with, and if it improves the show, improves ratings, and where Don Lemon's going to go.
Yeah.